Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Veronica Maya. I'm the host of the Conscious Relationship School and the founder. Welcome to tonight's webinar. It's about the important subject of boundaries, and I'm really excited to have you all. So how this works is that I'm going to guide you through a presentation, and you can also be part of the presentation and win a prize in the end. Hey, so fun. And yeah, I'm really excited to start and get going. So for all the people that are regularly attending, just send me a quick message in the chat. I'm always excited to know that you are here, so that I know that you are there. That's really cool. And to everyone who comes for the first time, welcome. Really cool to have you. And I love all the people that want to have better relationships. It's just so important right now. I always say that so many problems in the world come because people have terrible relationship skills, and we can really start to create a beautiful new world by relating in a way that makes us feel fulfilled and happy and safe. And Harry says, hi, Harry, so nice that you're here. Awesome to have you. And Kate, hey, Veronica, hello. Wonderful to have you back, guys. All right, cool. And so the thing is that, and Mike also, hi Mike, nice to see you. The thing is also that I used to, so I'm doing these webinars for about 1.5 years, and I used to have kind of like, what's the word, trolls, and they would always write like stupid things in the chat. So that's why the chat works that way, that you can only send messages to me, but not hear it. But I think for the next session, I'm going to just try and see, maybe the trolls finally have deserted me. So that I'll just, because it's nice, of course, if you guys can chat and you can see what other people are saying. I really understand that. It's just they were like, so like, just annoying the group. So yeah, but cool. Okay, so let's get started. I'll share my screen and then we can go. And please also know that I love it actually when people ask questions. So if you want to know anything, you can use this little hand raise button. And then just I'll help you unmute and just ask the question, or just use the chat. Please feel free, and it really helps other people as well if you ask questions, because probably they have the same question and maybe haven't thought of it, or are too shy to ask it. Also, if you ask a question in the chat and you don't want me to say your name, please say so, because otherwise I'll just say, hey, Mike said this and this. So just so that you know how this works. Cool. And John says, hi, Veronica. Thank you. Yes. Hello. Wonderful. Okay, cool. So I look at relationships in a way that you should learn different skills, right? It's like anything. It's like cooking, it's like math. Like you have to learn skills, and then you're able to have really healthy relationship. What would also be very beneficial is if you look a little bit into your past, into your childhood, and see if you have some unhealed wounds, and also address those. But a big part of it is skills. And healthy boundaries, I would say, are the most important skills directly after communication. If you have issues with relationships, I would always start with communication, because it's the basis, just how we interact. But the second one is boundaries, because if you have boundary issues, there's going to be a lot of problems with codependency, with enmeshment, with not knowing how to say no, with not knowing how to express what you want in the relationship. And there's going to be resentment and, a lot of blame. And one person always has to be the bad guy. And it just creates this unhealthy cycle at all times. So it's a really, really important skill to learn. Cool. And yeah, most of us, we should have learned it in childhood, but very often we also had parents and teachers who had just such bad boundaries. So we just never, ever learned it. And even on TV and media, I mean, bad boundaries are like everywhere. Cool. Okay, so the agenda for today is first, we want to have a simple definition of boundaries. Then I'm going to talk about different types of boundaries. Then how to define your own boundaries. and how to set boundaries without losing connection. But before we get started, just put in the chat, what guys do you think that boundaries are? Like, if you just had to sum it up in like one sentence, how would you explain to someone what boundaries are? And Jen says, hello, everyone. Hello, Jen. So just take 1 minute, just super quickly, one sentence. What do you think boundaries are? Chris says, learning to say no. Nice. Luna says, rules to protect yourself. Irina says, limits. Nice. Very cool. Maybe 2 more people. John says, personal needs. Very interesting. And Irene says, how near far can you come to me? Nice. And Harry says, boundaries, defining who I am in relation to others. Yes, totally. And Alison, so you don't get taken advantage of. And Kate, what you can do and can't. Nice. Yes, all of these definitely describe elements of boundaries. But already what I can see is that I think the understanding is a lot about what should not happen, right? So I set a boundary if someone does something to me that I don't like. But what I also what I will explain in this presentation is that boundaries are also about what we are missing in relationships. So not just, for example, let's say we'll give an example with physical touch, right? So if someone touches us and we don't like it, that's a boundary violation and we should set a boundary. But for example, in relationship, it also happens that maybe we don't get touched enough. We don't get hugged enough. We're having a missing need. And that's also what we call a boundary violation. So super simple. If you had to sum it up, your boundary is very simple: what you want and what you don't want. Very, very simple. What do I want? What do I don't want? So you can always remember that. It's the most simplest thing. But yeah, let's get into it because there's a lot of confusion. And you can also join this presentation by going to menti.com and using this code here. And then you can also join the presentation, and you can also answer questions. And in the end, there will also be a little quiz where you can win a prize. So I think that's really fun. Cool. Exactly, the winner gets a prize. Yes, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Veronica. I'm originally from Germany, living in English, living in South England. I'm a dating and relationship coach and the founder of the Conscious Relationship School, which you are joined now in this amazing webinar. And yes, I have worked with thousands of people, helped them overcome dating anxieties, and create healthy, beautiful, connected relationships. So that's what I really feel is my passion. And I'm always so happy when people want to learn about this, because in my own life, I used to have a really stressful experience in relationships. And now I just have I'm so peaceful with everybody just because I know these skills, because that's really the outcome. You're going to feel good in relationships, that your needs are met and that others respect you and you respect them. And it's just beautiful. Okay. Sorry, guys, I have talked so much today because I was at a radio show at 12 and then I had like a coaching session and then I talked to a friend and I'm like, oof, I talked a lot. So maybe I'm going to ask you guys lots of questions so that I don't have to talk 1 hour. Okay, guys. So my first question is, have you ever been in a toxic relationship? So as I said, you can join this presentation by going to menti.com and using this code. So you can just open another tab, another window on your desktop and answer the question. Or of course, you can also answer it in the chat, just say yes or no. Nice. And Kate says what you can do and can't. I really like that. Thank you. Yes. Oh yeah, exactly. What you want and what you don't want. Yes. Okay, cool. So it seems that most people have been in a toxic relationship. Why I wanted to ask this question is because toxic relationships are all about boundary violations. Like the whole time, right? Either someone is, in your space, screaming at you, maybe even physically abusive, being mean, cheating, all these things that hurt you, right? So that's like a boundary violation. They do something that you don't want them to do. Or maybe they don't give you enough hugs, they don't listen to you, they don't meet your emotional needs, right? That's also a boundary violation. Again, all these things are things that you don't want to happen. So in a healthy relationship, there would almost never happen things that you don't like, right? So it's kind of like a relationship where the boundaries are super healthy. Cool. Then the next question, how do these statements apply to you? If I don't want to do something, I can easily say no. Sometimes I feel really drained after spending time with people. I get really angry when people get in my space. So you can also answer in the chat, like just with numbers. Like, what do you think about these statements? All right. Okay, cool. So people here seem to have good boundary. No, they're still voting. I see. Okay, let's see what's happening. So in the chat, Luna says, I never thought about that as a boundary violation. Yes, so the reason why it's helpful is because you can just, as I said, think about, because many people are confused and feel like they cannot talk about it, for example, when they are missing hugs in a relationship, right? So it helps to think of it like a boundary violation, and not to say, right, that you can demand this from someone, but you can ask for it. And Luna says, it makes me feel better about leaving my ex now. Nice. Very, very cool. Okay. So it seems that people are sort of like, all right with saying no. But most people here feel very drained after spending time with people and sort of like get middle angry when people get in my space. Okay, so I wanted to ask these questions because obviously the first one is all about boundaries, right? Saying no is a big, important part of boundaries. And then very often when you are such a person that feels super drained after spending time with people, it is because of your bad boundaries, because maybe just a lot of boundary violations happen, that maybe someone, as I said, touched you in ways that you didn't like, or was just dumping on you, a friend who always uses you as her therapist, or that you were so inauthentic. That's why you feel so drained. So that's why I asked this question. And also very often, like when people are super angry, like all the time, it's very often because they have super bad boundaries. Because when you have good boundaries and someone annoys you, you're just like, hey dude, like stop that. And it doesn't even bother you. But if you have bad boundaries, very often you feel like you can't say anything, right? And then you go home, you're like, oh my gosh, that person was so annoying. Like I hated them. But actually because you cannot say it in the moment directly. So people with always this like pent up anger very often have very bad boundaries. Cool, wonderful. Okay, so I told you before a very simple definition of a boundary is what I want and what I don't want. But there's also a beautiful metaphor that I have found from a guy who is like, one of the big coaches out there who coaches about boundaries. And he explained boundaries. Let's go for this for a moment, like property line. So he says boundary, you could imagine it is like your property, right? So it defines what is yours versus what is someone else's. And I think that's so beautiful because when you think about it, I feel like sometimes people treat their own house or their own car better than themselves. They kind of like would never tolerate that someone just scratches their car. But if someone comes along and maybe is mean to us or rude, we sort of like just accept it. So I think I love this metaphor because it's like you should value yourself as much as you value your house, and you should protect it. And also So the three elements of the boundary, and that's very important to understand, are those. So first of all, you are 100% in control of your property. So you get to decide what is happening with that property. And if the property is missing something, it is also on you that you ask for what you are missing, because you are also responsible for that property. So it is your responsibility to make sure that the property is safe and that nothing happens, right? So that's such an important thing, because very often when we have bad boundaries, we feel incredibly victimized and we feel that the world is so bad and someone has to come and rescue us. But the thing is that we are the one who is responsible. And it seems kind of like often like this big daunting thing, but actually you have to retrain yourself. Very often, against culture, like for example, in England, I mean, we have this over politeness, right? That people are afraid to be direct. But for example, imagine you have children, like one of the most important things that I will teach my children is to tell them, look, if someone doesn't treat you well, you're going to tell them immediately, right? And as an adult, of course, you can learn this. And then the third element of the boundary as a property is the freedom. And this means that you have the freedom to do what you want with your property, right? You even when you are with your parents and they are treating you not a nice way, like you have the freedoms to say to them, excuse me, please don't act this way. It does not feel good to me and I don't want that anymore. Give you a personal example. I was with my parents and my husband in Scotland, which was an amazing holiday. And as a family, we've come a long way. I think we all did really good self-development the last 5 years. But one of my biggest triggers with my parents is that they are fighting. And this is actually one of my biggest childhood traumas, because they were just fighting a lot when I was a child, and it really stressed me. And so we were with my parents in an Airbnb, and they were very harmonious the whole holiday, which was amazing. But then my parents were sleeping in the bedroom and my husband and I were sleeping on the couch, because it was kind of like a small space. So we only had like one bedroom, and that was fine. But then my parents started to fight in the kitchen, where there was also the living room next door, right? So basically they were having a fight in our bedroom, and it triggered me brutally, right? Because I was like, I don't have any space to like run from this. So I went to them and said, hey guys, like, this is not acceptable. We are sharing a space together. We are on a holiday together, and you are crossing our boundaries because you are fighting in our bedroom now, and that's not okay. And it was so important that I said this, because it's my responsibility to make sure, right, that I'm safe and that I'm okay. And of course, it would be beautiful if everyone is always very conscious. But my parents in that moment, they were not even aware of what's happening, right? So I said it, and then it was okay. So I hope that made sense for you guys. Okay. Yes. And so as we are thinking of the boundaries like a property line, so you also become aware that there is a healthy way to have boundaries, because either we can have very limited to non-existent boundaries, right? Those are the typical people pleasers, people who can't say no, people who never speak up when someone does something that annoys them. So that's one type of boundary issue. However, there is also other people who have much too rigid boundaries. So those would be people, for example, that would really love to connect more with others, but because they are so afraid, they never say yes to anything. They never say yes to a date. They never ask, for example, for someone to maybe come closer, give them a hug, to connect with them, right? So it's people that are so good at saying no, but very bad at saying yes. And that's also doesn't make you happy, because if we think of a house, right? A house can also be a prison. If you remove the doors and you shut the windows, you nail them down, you can be a prisoner in your own house, right? So we want that good stuff comes in and bad stuff is kept away. That's what we want with a good boundary. So here you have it. Boundaries keep the good stuff in and the bad stuff out. A house has a wall to protect the inhabitants, but it also has a door that you can choose to open. All right. So that would be the best sort of like boundaries. And when we bring it again back to what I said, really like the most simplest way is just to think about it. What do I authentically want and not want? And to communicate this with the outside and not get blocked by fear or conditioning to not authentically express what I want in each moment. Okay, again, if you have any questions, just let me know in the chat or use the little raise hand button. Yes. Okay, so for everyone who is part of the presentation, again, you can join here. You can still join if you go to this menti.com and use this code. So how do you react when your boundaries get crossed? So you can also answer this in the chat. So what's your typical response? You know, just a few words. What do you usually do? Chris says, I become passive, a doormat. Yeah, oh, I really understand it. And again, guys, if you don't want me to say your name, just let me know in the comment. And Luna says, yeah, exactly. Okay, so thank you, Chris, so much for sharing. And yeah, it is a reaction of people, and it's a learned reaction that you feel somehow there would be super bad consequences if you would state your boundaries. So you become passive and says nothing, because although it feels terrible, you a part of you thinks it's more safe to not say anything than to put yourself out there. And Arena says, I withdraw and I become passive aggressive. Yes, it's also a very common reaction. Luna says, depends. Sometimes I will tell them it's not okay. Sometimes I will shut down. Yes, and I can totally imagine that. For example, for me, it's the same. Like, I actually have no problem to say boundaries to, you know, people that I don't know well. Like, I really don't mind. I can be also a bit aggressive. Sometimes I enjoy it. But with people close to me, that's what I find much more difficult, especially if I feel like it would maybe jeopardize the relationship. Yeah. Rusty says, it's only later that I realize my boundary has been crossed. Yes, that's also very often a problem, because we are so trained to like ignore it, or, you know, we are just focused on the moment, and then later we are like, oh my gosh, this really upset me, and we are not even aware of this. But I tell you, it all starts in childhood, because children are 100% aware of the boundaries. That's what we call the terrible twos. The terrible twos just mean that with 2 years old, they start to see conceptualize of themselves as their own person, and they start to feel their boundaries. And of course, they're little, they don't know what they're doing, so they just scream and, you know, are like children. But I think it's so important to not break their will at that age, but actually gently and slowly, you know, show them how to express their boundaries in a more, you know, healthy and socially, you know, not so stressful way, obviously. But like many parents just break the will of the children at that age, and then they wonder why with 28, 29, you know, 40, they have no boundaries. It's because that's where it starts. So yeah, children actually have good boundaries, and we sort of like mess it up for them. And John says, I'm okay, and out of respect, I mostly go quiet and let the other hear themselves. I think that's a cool strategy. Yeah, nice one. Okay, cool. And then here we have, I get pissed, I get a bad gut feeling, I let them be crossed, I get angry, I withdraw, annoyed, upset, I try to tell them, I disengage. All right, so we see, you know, various reactions, responses from unhealthy to healthy. But I think the worst thing is if you feel that because someone has done this to you, that you know, for example, for the whole day just feel bad about it. So in the second part now of this presentation, so first we talk a little bit more about what boundaries are, so you really understand it. But then I'm gonna show you like a way that you can set a boundary but still keep the connection, because that's one of the most important things. Because of course, right, we can get super angry at someone and tell them off, and in some cases that's really good. But in general, if we want to keep a healthy relationship with someone, we actually want to do it in a way that keeps the connection with them. All right, so thank you so much for answering, and the quiz will be at the end, so stay tuned, guys. You can win a prize. So these questions are all sort of like to gauge your experiences, and then in the end, there's going to be the quiz questions. Okay, cool. So now we're going to talk about what different types of boundaries there is. Because again, I want you to, like, when I started to learn about this topic, I just had no idea of all the boundaries that were constantly crossed in my life, like all the time. You know, I didn't even have language. I just felt horrible and I didn't know why. So that is my intention with this presentation. So one of them is, of course, the most simplest one is the physical boundary. So the proximity, how far, how close is someone, or how far is someone from you? Remember, a boundary is also that you are not getting your need, for example, for connection met. Same as with touch. Is it too much or is it too little? And of course, also unwanted sexual physical comments. But again, the same thing. For example, when you're in a relationship, do you maybe wish that your partner would give you more compliments, and you really suffer because you are not getting this very important need met? And as I said, when you think about it, it's actually all about what you want, what you don't want, and your own needs, right? I have a need for safety. I have a need to feel comfortable in social situations. If people come too close and I don't like it, I don't feel good. But also maybe if my friends are you know, not engaging with me enough, maybe always going away from me in the bar, I also don't feel good. So I hope that really makes sense to you. And again, this is something you should be really aware of, because it's so important that you really see yourself as the super valuable house. You know, you like are $1 million house, and you should treat yourself in the same way. Cool. Then, of course, we have mental boundaries. So this is about your thoughts, your values, your opinions, and beliefs. Does someone close to you not allow you to have your own thoughts, values, opinions, beliefs? Do they laugh about them? Do they, you know, say you're stupid? Do they maybe even not let them do they even maybe not let you express them? So that is a mental boundary. That is very, very important. For example, in families, I see this all the time, that parents somehow think that the thoughts or beliefs of their children are inferior, and that they want to force them, you know, to have the same thoughts, values, opinions, and beliefs. And I think that's terrible, because everyone, it doesn't matter if they're very small or very big or intelligent or not, has the freedom to think their own thoughts. But of course, also, again, if we talk about boundaries from the other direction, which is that someone is maybe not close enough to you, maybe there's someone that you really wish would share more their thoughts, values, opinions, beliefs with you, and they just don't do it. So again, in that sense, it's not that they forbid you something, but that they don't share it with you. Is also a boundary, a mental boundary violation. Okay. So we have a question now. So let's see. More people are joining. And Irina says, this is a practice in Asian culture. Children are meant to think like and hold the same opinions as the parents. Yes, it's, you know, every culture has their like shadow sides, and I definitely also see that. But also here, very often, it's like we call it what's it called, like the child is treated like a doll, you know, not really like a person, that the doll should do everything the parents like, it should behave in a way that pleases the parents, and it should just, you're basically not seeing like a human being, but just like a copy, you know, something that the parents mold in whatever way they want. Yeah. Okay, so which of these problems are you struggling with? People are treating me disrespectfully. People take advantage of my generous nature. People don't open up enough emotionally towards me, and I don't receive enough hugs from my loved ones. So yeah, so the biggest one was people take advantage of my generous nature. Yes, I can really imagine, and I can imagine maybe that also when you were attracted to this webinar, that that was the reason why, right? Because you want to learn how to have better boundaries. Is there maybe someone here that would like to share a bit about their relationship with boundaries, so that I'm not always just talking? So please, if you want to share, just raise your hand. I think the group would love to hear just some personal experiences about boundaries. Jen says, I don't get enough hugs. Yeah, it's so mega important. Yes. Yeah, and so again, I was using these examples to really make you aware that both when someone is treating you disrespectfully or taking advantage is a boundary violation, but also if someone doesn't open up emotionally to you or give you enough hugs is also a boundary violation. Again, it's about what you want and what you don't want. But of course, when someone is treating you with disrespect or touching you in a way that you don't want, you can always demand that they stop. But if someone, for example, is not showing you enough hugs or love, demanding is never a good strategy. Asking is a much better strategy to actually get your needs met. Okay, then there are emotional boundaries. So that's very classical, you know, that in relationships, our emotions get dismissed, assumed, or rejected. So when we feel something, someone says, why are you feeling this? That's totally silly, you know, come on. Or just get on with it, right? That's a very famous British thing to say. Or, it's your birthday, you must be so happy. Maybe they're not happy. Maybe they're feeling really horrible because they remember something bad that has happened the last birthday, right? So this is all a boundary violation because someone does not see you really in your emotions, and it can be really, really disturbing if on a constant basis our emotions are not getting taken seriously. We are not allowed to express them, right? Many kids and also adults experience that if they start crying, they say, oh, stop it now. Or when they are angry, they should never show anger. And it's basically like an impossible way. Like you cannot live like this. And I really believe that a lot of mental health issues come exactly from this boundary violation at all times, because emotions are just a normal part of our existence. And actually, if constantly someone forbids our emotions, they just get stronger and stronger and stronger. So it can be a real torturous experience. So I really want to validate if that was one of your experiences, that this feels really, really terrible, and there's a reason for it. Yeah. But also, again, on the other hand, if someone does not open up emotionally to you, it's also, again, a boundary violation. So this is like a typical childhood trauma, which is that you are grown up in a family where someone constantly forbids your emotions and tell you that they are wrong and bad and shouldn't happen. At the same time, they also do not open up with you emotionally. Like you never know what your parents are really feeling and thinking, and you just feel like they don't accept you as you are, and you are super disconnected with them. So yeah, when I talk about this, it's like, it's no wonder that our society is so freaking messed up, because this is like normal, right? I mean, how many of you have experienced this in my childhood? I have experienced this almost every day. It's just normal. People consider this to be like a normal way of treating each other. But I tell you, it's not. We are social beings, and emotions are a very normal part of our makeup. And it doesn't work to treat people like this. And Luna says, I have a codependent history, but I'm a very generous person. So I tend to overgive and then get upset that it isn't reciprocated in relationships. Yes, this is such a classical problem of a codependent, and I really feel you. And the problem with the overgiving is if you expect then something else to happen, because it's almost like people feel that you have this contract, that they never have signed, where you sort of like determine how much has to give because you first do the giving. And that people feel often manipulated through this. So if I were you, I would learn about, put it in the chat, consciously transactional. How can you be consciously transactional and learn sort of like in step-by-step way how to make relationships more that there's more harmony. I don't like the word balance because I think it doesn't work, but how can it be more harmonious that sometimes you give, sometimes they give, and it just feels really natural and equal. And John says, I don't know how to encourage others to share their thoughts, opinions. It seems to be part of their very private style personality. Doesn't feel as though I can deny their reality. Help. Yeah, so as I said, like, that's a classic thing, for example, that women do often in relationships because they have a deep need for connection. I'm completely the same, and I used to do this a lot. And then they just demand that their partners should now open up to them, should share their emotions, talk about their feelings, show their opinions. And of course, I 100% understand your need, but demanding this just never works because another person will feel pressured. Especially men feel like you want to take their freedom away and that you don't accept them as they are. And they usually get even more closed off. So I would say the best thing is that you learn how to ask for your needs in a very soft way. And of course, give people a lot of space, but then also really do a reality check, because some people will never open up, like never, because they have been deeply hurt in their childhood, and opening up was so painful that they will never want to risk it again. So there will always be people that will never do it. And for example, if you are a person that really needs connection, it is really important to think about, are these people that I can have in my life? Because if your need is constantly so unmet, it's a very, very unhealthy situation for both, because you are going to feel like you're starving, and that person is going to feel as though you constantly want something from them that they just can't give to you, and that you're always asking something that they are impossible to provide. So that's what we call compatibility in relationships, and it's very, very important to get so clear about this. Yeah. And John says, I'm open and very respectful in my style. Yeah, that's really great. Yes. And Chris says, I'm in a codependent relationship. I know I should finish it, but I don't because of my codependent needs. I'm empathetic. He has a strong personality. Please don't. Oh, I'm so sorry. Now you said it. I'm so sorry. Please don't mention my name. She said, I'm very, very sorry about this. I really just read it now. So yeah, so I really want to say to you that, yeah, I really know how it feels. I was also in such relationships, and yeah, I really feel for you. And I think what really helps is that you focus on other relationships and really try to more and more get the needs that your partner is meeting through other relationships, so that you more and more have this feeling that you have other resources outside of your main relationship. And then slowly, because basically you need to have this feeling that the world is not ending when you're going to end with him, right? That's That's so important. So that's what I would focus my energy on if I were you. Yeah. And then the last question is, my parents treated me the way your parents treated you. They are always fighting. Ever since I was a child, they would say that I should not express my anger. If I do, then I will not be loved because I have a bad temper. They tell me I must repress my anger, and they continuously never met my need to be seen and heard. So that was Winnie, and yeah, I 100% feel you. Like, in my childhood, anger was, it was kind of like all right. But if I was too much crying, that was definitely a problem. And if I, in general, was like hysterical or something, they really hated that. And so what I want to make you aware of, guys, is that emotions are our personal truth. It's a part of who we are deep down. And the reason why our society has so much issues with emotions, because we think that if we get someone to stop expressing emotions, then their problems will stop, right? If a child doesn't scream anymore, then they must be happy now. Everything must be okay now, right? And it's simply not true, because exactly what Winnie says, you just push it down and push it down and push it down and repress it, and it goes nowhere. And you can either become numb or depressed or have no idea where to go in life, because actually emotions are your guidance system. So you can be such a lost person. And it's such an unhealthy way to being. And very often parents are so emotionally immature themselves that they just can't handle a child's emotions, because actually you have to have the capacity as a parent to understand that if your 2-year-old has a temper tantrum, his or her brain is not even fully developed. So if you scream at them, they have no idea what the heck's going on. Like, I saw this the other day when I was at the public pool. There was a little, I think she must be like 2-year-old, and she was just screaming because she was little, right? And the parents were like screaming at her, and you could see she has no idea what the hell's going on. She's just trying to try different methods so that they would not scream at her anymore, but she does not have even a mental capacity to understand what's going on. So we need to get so much better in understanding child psychology, so that we can actually adequately react as parents, and not sort of like assume that our child even knows what's going on. So yeah. And Winnie says, how did you heal from that? So if you have this issue, like, you're gonna do the same thing to yourself. So I was always denying my own emotions, and I was trying to repress them, and I did not know how to manage them. So you need to learn those skills and start becoming your own inner loving parent. So the way to do this is to really start to understand emotions. I have some very cool webinars about this, and I would very much recommend Teal Swan for this. She's my teacher, and she's amazing. She has a lot of great videos about emotions on YouTube. So you start to validate and feel your own emotions. And by doing this, you are basically meeting the needs that your parents did not meet, right? But you can do it yourself. You can tell yourself, do you know what, my anger is so okay. And you can do a conscious anger practice. Like, for 1 year, I did conscious anger practice every week because it was so repressed in me, and I was just like screaming into the pillow, and it was very nice. Felt really good. And that's how you then emotionally mature. And then you also change those beliefs, because it's not that you're a bad person or that you have a bad temper, right? Your parents are actually the one that were immature and had no idea how to love you, essentially. Wow, a lot of talking today. I hope you're still with me, guys. Okay, cool. So then just quickly, so what are some other boundaries? So we had physical, mental, emotional boundaries. Then the time boundary, you decide how much time you want to spend with someone. The energy boundary, you are in control of the energy you put towards something or someone. Finances, you get to decide how much you are financially contributing towards something or someone. And material, it's your choice if you want to let someone borrow your material possessions. So again, It's about you are in control. You have freedom around your boundaries, and it's your responsibility to make sure that others respect this. So, very beautiful. Okay, so how to define now our own boundaries? So this is actually super, super simple and so perfect what we just talked about, because you define your boundaries through your feelings. As I just said a minute ago, your emotions are your internal guidance system. It's how it's like a part of you that is super instinctual, and it helps you navigate the world. So if uncomfortable emotions arise in you, it's very often a sign that your boundaries have been crossed in a situation. You know, when someone says something that hurts you, you feel it, right? You feel it in your body immediately. When someone touches you, you feel it. You're like, your muscles tense. You want to like go away, right? This is like this physical experience. If, for example, someone is not hugging you enough, you're maybe gonna feel like this super deep, like sadness within you and loneliness feeling, right? So that's why it is so important to get in touch with your emotions, because they will directly tell you about your boundaries and what you want and what you don't want. And when someone is so confused about their boundaries, it is because they have been trained actually to just be completely disconnected to their emotions. And I find it always really so sad, because it's like you are going through life without a compass if you don't know what you're feeling. So that's such a good step. Like really, I invested like some years into my emotional development, and it has been one of the best things that I've ever done, because yeah, I'm just so much more sure about myself. I have so much clarity about my life. And of course, I can manage my emotions in a really healthy and adult way. So your feelings tell you about your boundaries. Nice. Okay. We have another question. 8 players are ready. Yes, the quiz is coming soon, guys. I hope you paid attention. Okay. So this question is, how connected are you with your emotions? So this is not a quick quiz question, right? But yeah. So, and you can also answer in the chat. Just answer 1 till 5. So I always know what I'm feeling. I'm often confused about what I'm feeling. I can't feel my feelings. I'm numb. 4, my feelings are overwhelming, so I suppress them. And 5, feelings are overrated. You can't make good decisions based on them. So let's see what the guys have voted. So, cool. It seems to be very emotionally aware people here. That's awesome. So I always know what I'm feeling. I'm often confused about what I'm feeling. So 8 people have voted this. My feelings are overwhelming, so I suppress them. All right. So this is cool. So I feel like this group is all about, you know, when your boundaries have been violated mostly, but you don't really know what to do about it. That's what I'm gauging about this. Oh, I understand. And in the chat says, Corey says 1 to 2. Hi, Corey. Jen says 5. Okay. Feelings are overrated. You can't make good decisions based on them. All right. Jay says 5. And Chris, 4. I'm an empath, so other feelings are confused with my feelings. Yes. So the people who like voted 5, I understand where you're coming from. But the thing is that for example, what you can sometimes see with boundaries is when people are disconnected to their feelings, is that they try to rationalize their boundary, right? They say, oh, this is just a normal behavior. Why do I upset about this? This is silly. And that's like not a good way to live your life, because a boundary is just about you. You know, it could be that I feel a boundary where someone else would be completely fine, you know, where they wouldn't have an issue at all. But I feel it. And so that's my boundary. And that's very, very important that you don't rationalize your own boundaries, because for whatever reason in that moment, it doesn't feel good to you. And so it is valued, because again, you are the $1 million house. You are very important, and you should take care of yourself like you are a $1 million house, and not, you know, it literally doesn't matter. If you're the only person on earth that feels a boundary with a particular thing, it's okay. That's okay. It's totally your right. And Corey says, sometimes I can't name the emotion, but it feels very clear in my body. And that's totally fine. Like, as long as you feel that something doesn't work for you, that's really good. Okay. Okay, cool. So now in this last part, I wanted to talk about how to set boundaries without losing connection. So that's, of course, I think what most people are interested in, right? So how can I set boundaries with family members? And for example, what I wanted to share, remember I told the story before that I was setting a boundary with my parents on holiday when they were having a fight, basically in our bedroom. So what I didn't do was say to them, you guys are horrible, you're irresponsible, you don't respect me, and you are absolutely immature that you are fighting now. I did not say this to them. What I said to them is, hey guys, I get so triggered, and it really stresses me when you are fighting. And I would, and it's important to me that it does not happen here, because I'm going to sleep here, and I want this to be a peaceful place. So please, would it be all right if you guys go outside now and finish your conversation there? That's what I said to them. So I was talking about myself, what I needed. I didn't make judgments about them. I didn't tell them that they were horrible people, because this approach usually leads to intense shame in other people, and they are just going to start fighting with you. And they very often don't want to give you what you ask for, because they feel on the defense. You know, they don't want to be on your team. So that's one of the most important things in peaceful communication, is that you don't unconsciously shame others while with your boundary setting. Again, this is of course about people that you want to have a relationship with, like if it's a random person on the street, right? Or even someone who is like, you know, violent to you. Of course, do anything you want, right? You don't have to do this here, but with people that you want to have a relationship with. So a super simple formula is name the action they have done, name your emotion, and name your need. This is the formula: their action, your emotion, your need. The reason why we talk about an action is not a judgment is because an action is something objective, right? So as I said, I didn't say that they are horrible, immature people that don't love me. No, I said when they were fighting. I just talked about their fighting, which was an objective truth right now, right? They had a conflict. So when you fight, I feel upset and triggered because I don't feel safe and I don't feel peaceful. Would you be willing to go outside and have your conversation there? That is the basic formula for this. So if you want, guys, you can screenshot this. I find it super helpful just to have it like on my phone. And of course, you know, change the words so that they don't feel sort of like a formula. Say them in your own words, but that's a really, really helpful way to, just to set a boundary in a way that does not lose connection, because you're not judging them. You're not gonna make them feel as if they are terrible people, you know, and then they want to fight you on this. And so in a relationship, so when you want to talk about boundary in a sense of that someone is not giving you what you need, you know, not someone is doing something that doesn't feel good, but they don't give you what you need. You can also do this in this way, that you not say, you don't even love me, like you never hug me, you don't love me, I can't believe, why are we even in a relationship, right? Again, this is this defensive, very violent way of communicating, and very often what they will just say is like, you are crazy, of course I love you, what the hell are you saying, right? That would be their reaction to something like this. But you could also say it like this: I realize that I'm missing connection in our relationship, because I feel lonely sometimes when you are physically withdrawn from me. Would you be willing to explore options that we could have more physical contact in the future? or help me think about strategies to fulfill this. So again, you word it in a way that it doesn't feel like strange to you. But again, you are not talking about their faults and how horrible they are, and you blame them, you make assumptions. You just talk about yourself and what you are missing, and you make it very, first of all, rational, which is much easier for people to connect with. And you really just give them about information about yourself, right? Because it's also like this, remember before when we talked about incompatibility, like maybe you are with a person that just naturally does not feel good like fulfilling this need. There are people that hate hugging. So if you're a person that really needs hugs, I think you're just not a good match as well. And that's also very important, that you don't make them the bad one and the wrong one, because they probably have experienced something terrible in their life that makes them this way. So it's really a way to relate in a much more peaceful way, and together then to look for a solution, so that it's much more about missing needs and not that one person has to be the bad one and the wrong one, because this is the source of so many conflicts in relationships. Yeah. And Winnie says, when you ignore me, it makes me feel dismissed and insignificant. Next time, could you not do that, please? So I would actually soften it even more, because even ignoring is like a judgment. So for example, I would be super concrete. For example, when you say, I'm just making this up. When you come home from work and don't talk to me when you walk in the door, I feel lonely and sad. Next time, or could we maybe find a different solution? And I think a good question to ask is also, I'm wondering what is going on for you there, so that you start to understand what they are saying. Maybe for them it's super helpful to have 15 minutes of silence. So the less you can judge their actions, and the more you can bring it down to an action that is just very, very objective, like for example, that they don't talk to you 15 minutes when they walk into the door, the better, because the far less someone will feel that they have to defend their action, and the likelihood that they will feel that you think they are the bad guy is lowered. So this is all described in nonviolent communication. If that is one of your issues, I would really recommend to look into this. It has helped me so much to just be like 1,000 times more peaceful. And I also have a webinar about this. It's called How to Talk About Your Feelings in an Effective Way. Okay, guys, so it is time now. Yeah, we're almost at the end for the big quiz. Are you guys ready? Okay, let's go. Boom. Answer fast to get more points. Now you have to, it's about points, about the quiz. You can win something. Okay, what are the 3 correct elements of boundaries? So it's freedom, optimism, responsibility, control, understanding, knowledge. Yay! Everyone has understood it right. Really good. Okay, cool. Then we have question. Answer fast to get more points. What is a good metaphor for boundaries? One word. Think about it. We said it in the beginning. What is a good metaphor for boundaries? So you have to type now. All right. What you saying, guys? Okay. I think some people have got it right. 2 have got it right. Property. Yes. So the correct answer was property. Nice. You're doing good, guys. Okay. Question. Next one is how to communicate boundaries clearly. When I do action, I feel, when you do action, I feel emotion because my is not being met. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about value, understanding, or need? Yes, so the correct answer is need. Nice one. Okay, guys, 2 more questions. How do you know that your boundaries have been crossed? I feel uncomfortable emotions. I get tired. I want to go for a walk. So what have we discussed here? Yes, you got it all right. I feel uncomfortable emotions. Very nice. And then last question. Let's see who wins. And please, the person who wins then has to put their email address in the chat so that I know. Mental boundaries are about thoughts, values, opinions, and type it in. Thoughts, values, opinions, and what was the last one? Let's see who got it right. Beliefs. Yes, cool. 2 people. Okay, now the big question. Who did win the quiz? And it was oh, Harry. Ooh, nice job. Good. Well done. That's amazing. So if you are the right Harry, then I have your email address, right? So that's amazing. Well done, you. Good job. Let's all give him a round of applause. Nice. Very good. Well done. So yeah, this is so fun. I started to do these quizzes and it just brings something a bit more into the thing. And your prize, Harry, is my course called Dance with Emotions. I'm gonna send it to you with email. Okay, so we are at the end of the course, at the webinar tonight. So I wanted to quickly just tell you a story of one of my clients because I think it's very interesting for men and women to understand, because in a male-female dynamic, very often there is this misconception that men are more the perpetrators and women are more sort of like the victims. But with my client Rohit, that I have the wonderful opportunity to work with at I think last year it was, he was in a completely toxic dynamic with his girlfriend. She was absolutely emotionally out of control and was just, so her behavior was that she would just have these crazy outbreaks of emotions, and she would constantly demand of him, you know, to be there for her, to do ridiculous things like she wanted now like a ring and he had to get it for her, and she would drink and then just start to go crazy, you know, like destroy stuff in the house, sometimes even, you know, give him like a like punch him and stuff. So and he was, you know, quite a strong man. He was like in a very high position at work. So his boundaries with his colleagues at work were brilliant. He was a very masculine man, but just there was this one dynamic with this woman that just had him hooked. Like he was addicted to her, and it was just so difficult for him to speak up. And so he started to have sessions with me, and we did a really big process of doing trauma work together, inner child work, and understanding why there was this addictive story with her, because it really wasn't like an addiction, like he couldn't stop. And so we realized that he was trauma bonded with her. So that means that something about her reminded him of his childhood, and he just felt that if he could make this relationship work, if he could make her happy, that he, like everything that happened in his childhood, would magically heal and that he would be okay. But of course, that was a total illusion. So after a few sessions, he actually stopped contact with her, and he started to create a really amazing relationship with himself, because that was the most important thing for him, that he realized that so many of the things he was missing in childhood, he could first and foremost give him, become an inner loving parent towards his inner child, and then from this on create the outside reality, fill it with people that are his real friends, his real relationships, and know that he always has value and that he never ever has to accept such behaviors again. So yeah, so that was the story of Rohit. And yeah, he was an absolutely fantastic man, very intelligent, but you can see that everyone can get into these dynamics because, as I said, we have bad boundaries, we may don't learn them. Maybe we have good boundaries with some people and really bad with others, right? But always remember, as I said, that you are $1 million house and you deserve to take care of yourself. You deserve to get your needs met, and you always deserve to be safe and be happy. So that was just a little story that I wanted to give to you, to know that if Rohit got out of such a crazy, very intense situation, then you can do it too. Okay, so yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah, here I also have my link tree. If you want to connect with me, you find all my coaching offers, and also I have a free ebook there. So if you want to learn more about relationships, download my free ebook. And yeah, so it was wonderful having you. Next week we have a webinar again. We also yesterday had free group coaching. It was so cool. We had like a group of guys and I think one woman, and it was fantastic. Like I coached three people, and one of them particularly went so deep. It was very, very beautiful. So if you want to check that there, come on in. I would love to have you. Okay, I'm talked out for a night. My husband just cooked me dinner. Bless him. We're gonna sit now and watch something relaxing, and then yeah, it was a good day. Okay, thanks so much, guys, for tuning in today, and I hope to see you soon. So much love to you all. I think you're doing amazing, and yeah, just all the best. And I'm so glad that you have enjoyed it. And yeah, to all the regular ones, so cool. Allison also, yeah, we just had a session today. She's such a wonderful woman. And Harry and Mike, which I think I'll also have a session soon with. And of course, Corey, super regular. So thank you. Okay, wonderful. Have a nice evening, guys. Bye bye.